This is a homage beat.
Grace and peace. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of I Saw the Lord. It's your boy Brandon. I want to start off with an apology. It's been a long time since I've done a podcast. Last time I believe was in June. We finished up concept number 20. What does it mean to be victorious? And that one, we actually did it with my entire community group at church. So that was a daunting task, but I think that was the longest episode and probably just the realest one. Just having great conversations. People were just being extremely vulnerable. People even cried, you know. But it was real. We had a really good time in the Lord. But after completing that one, I didn't think I would be doing another episode. Most of you guys know that when I started this, I was rocking out with Brent, right? And just keep him in your prayers. He started his own business, so just time constraints wouldn't allow him to do it. So I would just get people from church every single week to come and partner with me. And that was great, especially for the first 20 chapters of the book. I was able to get through that, so I counted it as an accomplishment. But going forward, I didn't know, because there's 40 chapters in the book, so I didn't know what would happen afterwards. So I was just like, God, I'm proud of myself for stepping out of my comfort zone and completing something. But, I don't know what I'm going to do going forward, because I didn't want to do a podcast by myself. I wanted to have someone who could partner with me. But at the time, there was no one there, and no one who I didn't think would make that commitment to me. And so for several months, just not knowing what was going to happen with the podcast. And it was poor on my part for not communicating that to those who were tuning in, however many it was. So I do want to apologize, but the Lord is faithful. The Lord is extremely faithful. One of the individuals we did the last podcast with, he came up to me, he sent me a text. He was like, I got something to talk to you about. Like, I don't know what you're going to talk to me about. And so we actually talked. He's like, I want to do a podcast. And I was like, word? Because he already knew that I was doing the podcast. And I was like, I do want to do a podcast. And my envision was to continue podcasting even after I finished the book. But I wanted to finish going through the book first and not start something completely new. So I didn't know if he would be on board for that. Because it's a time commitment. And he's a married man. He's got things to do. And I don't want to take advantage of someone's time. But this brother was down, man. And just a testament to how God provides. I did not think I would be doing the podcast again, or even this recent. I would hope to pick it up, but I didn't think it would be this soon, and it kind of worked out because it's the end of a year and a new one is coming up. So I started podcasting with the book beginning of 2017. So now 2018 is rolling up, and by God's will, hopefully we can get through the rest of the book, and even after that, continue podcasting, because I definitely like this avenue. So we are here today, going through another concept and burden of proof, using known concepts to reveal eternal truths. The first half of the book has been completed. We are on the second half of the book, and today we are talking about how does your heart beat. But before we even dive into that, I definitely want to introduce this brother who I admire. I'm just a huge fan of his heart, just how he loves his wife, just his commitment to the church, how he loves the Lord, and just getting to go through life with him, just to see the ups and the downs, and that we can go through this together. So I'm just proud to know this individual, and that he decided to do the podcast with me, because like I said, this is a big commitment and sacrifice. So someone to come along and do that with me, I'm truly honored and humbled. But without further ado, I just want to introduce my brother Jamel. Just say what's up and then tell the people a little bit about yourself.
What's good? My name is Jamel Harrell. I met Brandon just through the avenue of the church, man. Coming to the community group, we connected, and I really enjoyed that time when we did the podcast with the community group. It was really cool. So they really like opened my eyes and my thoughts to like podcasts. After that, I started listening to a few podcasts, and I was doing some different things, and I had like, and I ended up sitting there texting Brandon because I had some ideas about I wanted to do a podcast. I wanted to be on one. Cause I just had an interest in it. Like I've always had this thing where just as you get to know me, like I never really be the guy talking out in the group or being seen as the outspoken one, but I always had that desire to like communicate and talk and be in one-on-one settings, just chopping it up. So it's always been something that I've enjoyed doing. Like Brandon said, I'm a married man. Been married to my beautiful wife, Shanetta. We're going on 3 years. This coming June, just going through life with that. Going through life with my brothers in my community group, man. It's just been a beautiful thing. Just Brandon was speaking to me how he looks, and I admire him as well. Like he's an example to the group as a father and as a young husband, just showing us and being a leader within our group when it comes to the gospel. So it's been really cool to get to know him. And just, I'm also thankful for the opportunity to do this because, I mean, it's a cool thing to see a brother put in work on a book. And then it takes a lot of boldness and courage to put it out there and put your art out there. So it's really cool to hear that and see that and to just be a part of it. And I'm thankful for this opportunity. And I'm cool. I'm down for the ride to see where it goes and where God takes it. So I'm hyped about it. Yeah.
Nah, that's what's up, and I appreciate those words. And like I said, just having someone to come along with me means a lot. So I appreciate it. But we're gonna dive right in. Concept number 21: how does your heart beat? Now, before reading this chapter, was this even something you even gave a thought about?
I mean, like, who really thinks about that? I mean, not really. I mean, who really thinks about, like, their heart being, like, what's the purpose? I mean, it's just something we just take it for granted. I mean, I don't ever think about it until I maybe go to the doctor or something, or you feeling something, like, in your chest, like, beating, like, you working out or something, man, your heart pumping fast. I mean, you just take it for granted that it's going to be there. I mean, I've heard day in and day out multiple times where people, like, one time, my former church, like, a lady was telling me how, like, a young man that was, like, 27, our age now, like, within our age range, was in the choir, and he just passed out. His heart just stopped. So, I mean, unless you hear something like that, or, like, some traumatic event with, like, maybe your family or something with a heart, you really don't think about your heart beating. You just kind of take it for granted. So, nah. I mean, just seeing that you wrote it, like, seeing that was the next chapter, I was like, man, that's an interesting concept. Like, how does your heart beat? What's the connection he trying to make? And as you wrote it, it was cool. I saw you bring that connection and how we're going to dig into that.
Nah, that's what's up, because the way I divided the book, just fun fact, this is actually the second chapter that I wrote completely, because I didn't even have the full fleshed out. I don't even think I had a title for the book or anything like that. It was just, this is literally the second one I wrote. I think the first one I did was what gives you worth and value, and right after that was how does your heart beat. So even though it's chapter 21, it was actually the second chapter that I wrote. But as I continued writing, I just noticed a theme that a lot of the concepts that I used were abstract. So I was providing evidence for God, but I was just using abstract concepts like value, truth, fear, love. These are not tangible things that you can touch.
Yeah.
And so the first half of the book is just abstract concepts using to provide proof of God's existence and ultimately point back to the gospel. And so the second half of the book, you'll notice that they're all concrete. Like your heart is something tangible you can actually touch, you can actually see. And so just because I'm sure most people like see the randomness in all of like the chapters, and they're like, yo, what? How you go from there to there to there to there? But that's how I kind of broke it down. So everything 21 going forward is something tangible that you can either see or touch. And so I was just thinking of man, how can I provide an existence for God? Because that's a big thing. Most people say I don't believe in God because I can't see him, and so you've got to provide evidence for it. And so I was like, man, what can I think of? And just, I don't know, it sounds like real, like I'm not that mystical type of person, but God would just give me these ideas, and I'd just be like, yo, that's dope. And that's how I came up with the concept. And I open up, I say, man has tamed beasts, harnessed solar power, nuclear power, traveled the depths of the sea and even space. This is simply a snapshot of the accomplishments of man. However, the one thing that enables man to accomplish all of these things is outside of his control. The muscle that is the size of one's fist is controlled involuntarily.
Yeah.
And it's like you were saying before, we just simply go through life, not even giving a second thought about it. We just like, yo, my heart's gonna beat, and as long as I take care of myself, my heart is gonna beat. But you just mentioned that you knew somebody who was our age, a young individual, just simply died. And so with these concepts, I try to just take an objective view and looking at heart just from a naturalistic or scientific perspective where these are irrefutable facts. And so
Let me ask you a question about that. As you were writing that with those abstract ideas and putting the tangible ideas, were you thinking of as you're writing these, are you thinking specifically, can you expound a little bit more on why you on the person that you were writing to, when you were writing, how were you thinking? What are these ideas that you feel were just flowing, or you were taking it research wise when you went from these abstract ideas to tangible ideas?
So the abstract ones, I think just after a while, I just started picking up on a pattern. That these, like I said, the first half of the book is just all abstract ones. Like the last one that we did, what does it mean to be victorious?
Yeah.
It's something abstract. It's not something really tangible that you can hold on to. But I was just trying to think of, because I say it's a known concept. Everybody, no matter who you are, can comprehend this. So you're an atheist, you're a Christian, you whatever walk of life you come from, you can understand these concepts.
Yeah.
And how I'm making a parallel to a gospel truth, that's like you said, where you going with this. Mm-hmm. And so with heart, you could go up to anybody and they know what a heart is, but then they're not going to realize you're going to make a parallel, a gospel truth from your heartbeat. So that's what I was thinking. And I didn't want to just use arbitrary things, and that's how I guess when we get further, you'll see that these weren't just things I picked out of the sky. Is number one, I did do study just from a naturalistic perspective, but because we come from a biblical worldview, I was looking at it from a biblical lens as well. Yeah. So that's how I came up with it. So all the concepts, hopefully, that no matter whether you share my worldview or not, you can at least understand. Everybody knows what a heart is, you know. So it's not something that you can be like, oh, I don't believe in a heart or something crazy like that. You comprehend that known concept, heart, and then I'm bringing the eternal or the gospel truth to it. And so when I was talking about just how far-fetched that nobody really thinks about it, because it's kind of like breathing. You don't have to think about breathing, but the difference about breathing, that's voluntary, even though you don't consciously do it, but I can hold my breath, I can do that. I have zero control over my heart, and it just beats. And so in answering the question, I even gave the scientific answer. I say the cardiologist would answer saying the atria and the ventricles work together, alternating, contracting and relaxing to pump blood through the heart. The electrical system of your heart is the power source that makes this possible. Your heartbeat is triggered by electrical impulses that travel down a special pathway through your heart. And it's your heart is beating through some electrical pulse. Just when you try to wrap your head around that logically, that's kind of crazy. Yeah. It's just beating. And just even me, I think I was telling you this before, when you have a young child, their heart beats super fast, and it's just it just seems like it's gonna bust or something like that. But it's man, that I have absolutely no control over that, and it's just it's a humbling reality. Yeah. And so in answering the question, you can answer it just from the cardiologist's perspective, but it's how do you know your heart is going to continue beating? Yeah. And I like I said, just trying to answer it just objectively. And if you don't come from a biblical worldview, your only answer is probability. Now, would you say someone else would have a different answer? Just trying to think outside of a biblical worldview, how would someone answer that question? Mm-hmm. What would you say that they would say? Because my only explanation is you just depended on probability. Do you see there's any alternative answer, or you just think that's the only answer you left with? I just hope I wake up and my heart ain't failed.
Yeah. So that's why